All right, we rolling. What's today's topic? How much do those granite countertops really cost you? Yeah, this is Freedom Phil, like and subscribe, and let's get into it because I look at what people pay for houses, and I'm like, how many granite countertops could you have paid and the interest you pissed away on your mortgage? Yeah. And once again, if you're a parent and you're just letting your kids watch whatever on the internet and you're offended by what I say, well, that's your fault for being a shitty parent. I talk about real things, I swear, I cuss, and if people are offended by that, this isn't the channel for you, and you should fuck off because you're a pussy. Yeah. Freedom Phil, like, subscribe. Let's get into it. So, it's like this. I was thinking about this the other day because this is a game I play every once in a while where I'll go onto the internet and I'll look up what random cities all over America, generally in places I know will be affordable, like the Midwest, Texas, the South. I'm like, what does a house cost in some place that I once upon a time drove a truck through? Like I drove dairy. And let's give you a quick little backstory on how I found some of these places. I drove truck for over 9 years, OTR, damn near 10 years. Hell, I drove Class B for over 4 years. And I got to some of these places. You get these weird loads out of the Northwest. You get these weird loads all over America. Let me explain the insanity for a second about America. Milk is a great example of this in certain products. You would think we would just have cows all over the country just to have that company have it over there. But no. People want a unified flavor, just like Ray Kroc from McDonald's. They want to taste the same burger, the same McChicken, no matter where you go. And maybe there's some regional differences where you can say add on this, but you want the original if that's what you want, no matter where you are in the world. Well, so you pick up a load of Dairy Gold and you take it all the way to, say, I don't know, place north, Aurora Platte Dairy, Platte, Colorado, or something like that, or that's Aurora Dairy. And then Hutchinson, Kansas is one of the places in. Let me tell you one that was really insane. I'd take a load of Dairy Gold all the way to Washington, D.C. from Western Washington. Why? Because people, let's say a Costco or Sam's Club, they want to have the same damn product no matter where they go. Ray Kroc, unified, everything's exactly what you expect. Doesn't matter what part of the country. And like when you go to Costco, doesn't matter whether you're in America or Mexico or wherever, a pepperoni pizza is going to taste exactly the same, which is fucking awesome, right? That's the way it should be. But the insanity of that is that effectively I was driving a load of milk all the way across the country when you could have raised cows over there. And you want to know what was even crazier? I'd pick up a load of dairy about 60 miles from Washington, D.C. and take it all the way back to the other side of the country. America! Why do your things cost so much? Because people are stupid. So, bringing it back to how does this talk about granite countertops and houses? Well, to be honest, and by the way, a little sip of coffee, little cinnamon, little vanilla peptides in here. It's really good, by the way. I passed through these places, and Hutchinson, Kansas is one of these examples. Another example would be Savannah, Tennessee. Not Georgia, Savannah, Tennessee. A little place that makes hush puppies. Best smelling factory I've ever been to. I deliver a huge lot of onions to them, and I'm like, I could live here. It smells so good. And you look up these little towns as you pass through them, and then you get this habit of going online, and you're like, okay, random town somewhere in America. What does it cost? And you just kind of look, and then you check, has this town had any sort of, chemical problems, water problems, what's the crime rate? You're going to look into demographics. I'm sorry, but that's just true. That's what smart people do. And always remember, people are more bold if they think you're an easy mark. If you're open carrying, surprise, most people are like, oh, yeah, that guy. And just do a little head twitch occasionally. That keeps them on. That'll keep them a little off edge. Like, oh, I don't know, don't want to die. But most places are pretty okay. A lot of the reasons a lot of places, just like where I grew up in the Northwest after the land of the dead, as I like to call it, and the logging crash that happened back in the 80s because of a government pen, and then the industry just tanks. And sometimes that's a lot of America in general. We used to have factories all over the country in some places. Some places just farming. A lot of times it might just be that the kids were like, screw this. I want to go somewhere else. I don't want to be doing what my dad did, so they end up moving to some other country. Or I shouldn't say some other part of the country or another country. Like they're like, hey, I'm educated. Let's move to Europe. Let's move to Japan. That leaves a huge hole in the people there. And much like with churches, by the way, you ever notice how churches slowly die because the youth, they don't show up. So you really have to, if you want your religion, you have to really make by the way, you have to be the hip church that people actually want to go to, like fun church. That helps. Just saying. In the same way that your towns slowly fade like that. So you have houses where old people pass on and nobody is looking to buy the house because the people that have houses already have them. The houses are cheap. Like Hutchinson, Kansas, I looked it up the other day, and you'd have to know how to do some inspections. First thing being the roof. I'm not saying it has to be brand new, but it not leaking, because that is one of the bigger problems you will run into on any sort of house. You make sure the house doesn't have any leaks, doesn't have any problems, and then it's the plumbing. Before they even old people pass on, did they winterize the plumbing and then test the plumbing? Best time is right after the old people either decided to move south or retirement home, or they just passed on. And you might have to rent a roll-off dumpster to throw away a lot of stuff. You give away some stuff, throw away some stuff, sell some stuff if possible. But you get an old house like that, and there was a house there for $30,000. There was a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. You could add a bath. You could add like what I call dad's bathroom. The half bath. That you have the master bedroom, but then you have the half bath, and that's really dad's bathroom because mom does not want to smell that ass in the same bedroom. Just saying. But yeah, you add an extra bathroom. Kind of the kids and dad's bathroom, maybe even another one. You got a 3-bedroom with a carport or a detached garage for $30,000, 50, 60. Let's say $50,000, and maybe you got to put some sweat equity and $50,000 into it. But you got a house for $100,000. Now let's bring it back all the way back to the very beginning of how much do your granite countertops for your house really cost? And this is the mathematical mindset that I talk about. 6%. I think it's actually over that currently for a 30-year fixed rate. The average house, let's say, for a nice community. I'm not talking about just a house anywhere. We're talking in a lot of these communities, people that want to live in. And they say, because we have good schools here. No, you don't have good schools anywhere. You have worse schools, and you still have shitty schools. Shitty schools and worse schools. And if you don't believe me on that, after 13 years, your kids, unless you put some real extra effort into them, are good enough to do what? Flip hamburgers, stock dollar store shelves. By the way, another little drink of coffee. And today's coffee's got cinnamon and some vanilla peptides in it. Yeah. Your kids are effectively as well trained, or actually in truth, lesser trained than someone who just walked across the river. Just saying. I don't care whether you think you've got good schools or bad schools. The only thing that's really going to have your kids doing really well is you, parents. You making sure when they're young, they're not just zoned out. There's a time and a place to play some video games, but really, if you know a trade, you know a skill, you should have your kids at 10 years old really understanding that goddamn well. And there's no reason they can't, because you'd be surprised how intelligent children really are, except for we just coddle people until they're damn near 25 to 30. In America. I mean, hell, college is an extension of adolescence, in my opinion, and most people's entire existence is an extension of adolescence. Instead of being the cool video game or toy or shirt, or then when you're in high school, I have a car, you ride the bus, it just turns into status crap for adults. And we bring it back to the granite countertops. Well, it's 6% interest at $500,000 at a 30-year mortgage the first year. That's $30,000. That's $30,000. Let's say the average granite countertop installation is anywhere from $3,000 if you're doing it yourself, and you're delivering the granite, paying some locals to help you move it in there. And by the way, this is part of the reason I say fuck granite. Formica's for real people. Why? Because Formica is light and easy to deal with, and when the style changes, you can just change it. Formica, because it's people friendly. It doesn't weigh a ton. Why I said that is me and my brother-in-law. Down in the Cabo disaster, what I refer to as the disaster from Cabo, the 2.5 months I got marooned down there, we were doing the granite. Me, him, and his son. By the way, his kid, totally chillax, laid back dude, good dude. And that shit weighed a lot. We had to carry it down steps. He had to jump the fence, go through another person's condo property to get it in there. We're not hauling it over that. We're not doing that. That's not happening. And I'm like, yeah. And it looks good. It looks great. It looks great. It's a pain in the ass. So you pay somebody to do this at least $5,000 to $7,000 or more, depending on what region you're in, city you're in. You're in a city, gotta cost you some more monies, because supply and demand, and just frankly, it costs more to live there. On $30,000 just on the first year of your 30-year mortgage, could you theoretically? I mean, three or four times or more, you could have done your granite countertops in an old house in Hutchinson, Kansas. You could have redone the whole counters. Could, hell, while you're there, new counters, new cabinets, new everything. for what you just pissed away in interest every year. And you just think 30,000 the first year, and then it'll be 29,000 a little less next year. Well, you better pay some extra money on that loan, Mr. $500,000 house in a good neighborhood because of the school. Because you are going to pay. You are going to pay. And I've often said it, and I'll say it once. I said it before, I'll say it again. I call it it's a hero's journey, retirement by 30 in America, or 7 to 10 years, because most of us, we're not taught any of this crap when we're growing up. We're raised by the TV. We're raised by teachers that hate their jobs. Our parents are half-ass. I know your parents love you, but really, did they really put a lot of effort in you? What I'm going to say, which I've said before and I'll say it again, I often recommend trucking, plumbing, electrician's work. And why I say trucking is a free apartment on wheels when you drive OTR. I hear people complaining about, it's so lonely out here. God, dude, pick up a fucking podcast. Get a few hobbies. Get something, some shows you're looking forward to listening to. You know, that's part of back in the day when Kevin Rutherford was on the Road Dog Network or whatever it was. I actually like listening to him. Then when he went off there, I'm like, why the hell would you have Sirius? You know, some people like listening to what's that guy from the old guy that did the movie Private Parts. You guys can figure it out. A guy like that guy. My point is, I might listen to a podcast, and as I travel the country. But back to what we're really talking about. You get a good trade when you're young, and they're not paying me to say this, but love the guy's content. Aaron Clary, a world's greatest accounting career, because once you're established. And by the way, you could have that all the way established by the age of 16. You could be sitting on a beach. You could be out here in the wasteland. You could be in the middle of the Midwest and serving your clients as an accountant. If you were one of those people that works online, like let's just say whether it's insurance or some sort of online business, you do tech, and tech's can be kind of a shaky business these days because of changes in the business. Like everybody thinks AI is going to be this great cure, but it's just going to be like the dot-com bubble. It's just going to be like any of the next thing, synergies and all this stuff, where it's just a buzzword. And if you're not doing it, and there's going to be some companies losing money. I'm telling you on this. There's got to be some, like just a case like with the dot-com bubble, like situations where the Amazons rose from the ashes. But yeah, there's a lot of people getting BF'd right now based on, and they're going to find out that they still need some of these people. And by the way, if you're one of those people that got fired, when they ask you, do you want to work again? You fucking charge more, you know, for the inconvenience. And that's just like what I call gringo taxes in Mexico, because you happen to be, you know, because they happen to think you can pay more, you charge more. And because if they're going to lay you off, you charge more if they come call them back. You know, hiring people from India. Oh, we can pay them $25,000 less. Fuck you. But the moral of the story is you get into a good trade, skill or something, and you live as absolutely cheap as possible, whether it's living in a tent behind someone's house, living with your parents, share room, van life, living in a OTR truck, and you can live off less than $5K a year. Living in the city, go get yourself a gym membership. Best shower you will ever take. You go and work out real hard, and then you get sweating, then you go take a shower, then you go hit the sauna, sweat really good, then take another shower, and your body's just like, oh, your pores are completely cleansed. The best. And by the way, you know, you're living off less than $5K a year and making $100K a year. Live in a state with no state income tax. And they're like, well, what do you do with all the money? You buy a house? No, that's the last thing you do. The first thing you do is you start investing when you're young, maybe a little gold, little silver. I'm not going to tell you what to invest, but like, you know, the S&P or whatever. If you happen to want to gamble a little with the stock market, hey man, you got the extra money, give it a try. Make sure to learn from some people that know what they're doing. And then, like I said, I can't tell you what to buy, but I can tell you if you're making, let's say 10% on 100,000, that's 10 grand you just made. Now, are you doing better than the person that's losing 6% on $500,000? And not to mention that person that has to have that new car, new lifestyle, how much their car interest is, how much, you know, you add up how much they're losing in commuting between, let's say $25 an hour times 2 equals $50 a day for 2 hours a day back and forth times 5 days a week. That's 250 times the whole year, like 50 weeks in the year, minus the 2 weeks for vacation. You're talking, what is that, 12,500? Then you add in, like, between your car and Honey Poo's car, we're talking $1,000 in cars. Then you figure in the overpriced insurance because it's new and it costs more to fix it. Also, they know you're dumb, and they look at your credit. They know you're dumb. Yeah, bada bing, bada boom. You're losing another, like, what, $25,000 to $30,000 right there on top of the $30,000 you just lost paying for that nice house in the city with the granite countertops. Meanwhile, in Hutchinson, Kansas, or Savannah, Tennessee, or many towns, little towns, just get online, get on Google Maps, look at a little town and say, what does a house cost here? There's lots of old houses. When old people die, or they decide to move south, or they decide to do something, you can find a house. I saw a place for 30 grand in this economy, 30 fucking grand. And mind you, it probably needs some work. Why don't you be the guy that does that work? Once again, cinnamon coffee with peptides. Why don't you be the guy that does that work? I got a brother-in-law. Great guy. Sometimes he's a douche. Great guy. Fun guy to party with. We kind of butt heads occasionally. That's just the way it is. He could build a house from below the dirt, like digging down, pipes, everything, all the way to the sky. You get a family of dudes like that, you could take over a town. You really could. You could go into there and you're like, okay, there's a nice old house. Okay, we already know what's right. The roof is in good enough shape. It's not leaking. You got a whole family of people, and you all know how to do drywall. One of them is the plumber. One of them is the electrician. You all know how to do all these skills together. But each one of you are certified in one thing, and you keep that money circulating between each other. I call it the Mexican Voltron. I should call it the tradesman Voltron. Really, that's what I should call it, the tradesman Voltron. And why I call it the Mexican Voltron is because I've noticed a tendency that people that come from the second or third world tend to be more realistic about that. You want to see something crazy? Go down to like Cabo, and watch them build one of those high rises where it's literally made all of concrete, the whole thing. And you will see guys, hundreds of guys, like ants, working on a project. They'll as they build the project up, they'll take apart, they'll have all the concrete forms and this, and they'll just move it up and move it up and move it up, and it'll go up. It's incredible to watch. And what am I getting at with that? These people, a guy that's like 5'4" or smaller, is carrying a 100-pound sack on his fucking back. He's carrying like 5 cinder blocks, and he ain't even flinching. By the way, it's 10 in the morning. He's already drinking a 40 while he's doing some of the best stonework, concrete work. Basically smoothing this on top of the what do you call it? The condo. Where you got a pergola up on top, and you got this really nice setup for hanging out up on top of the roof, because that's what you do. He's doing all this work, and now if you take that same guy and have a whole country of people that ain't never had much shit in life. They literally grew up the middle class in their country, you would think is the goddamn, you'd be like, for only so many dollars a day, you can support a poor kid somewhere in the world. Literally, you would think that, but those people, that's the middle class in those countries. You see the people living in shanties. That determination, if you take a group of people, whether it's Latino, Mexican, people from India, by the way, why do people from a lot of those countries do so goddamn well? Why do they buy hotels and do so well? Because they live in the hotel, they cook and clean in the hotel, they keep all the business within the family. It's the Mexican Voltron, but it's from India. You could do the same goddamn thing in America, where you basically, think about this for a second. A lot of the problem that a lot of you have is that, okay, let me give you a gamer example. You know how at the beginning of Skyrim, you don't have a house? You either have to rent a bed, or hey, just join the companions and you got a free bed. For the bonus, you actually want to kind of rent a bed in the early game so you can get the experience bonus, side point. But the point of it is that when you're young, the thing you need to do is have that cost of living as low as possible. Getting those skills, getting that trade. Everybody should be an accountant, in my opinion. I should be an accountant. You should be an accountant. And why? Because then you'll know how to run your own goddamn numbers. And by the way, I've said it before and I'll say it again. One of the biggest problems of our school system is it teaches you a lot of generic crap that you will never use. A lot of people are not intelligent enough to really, you could teach people science, but they're never going to use it. You could teach people the state history, the country's history, and most people will learn it and forget it. They will never make a dollar off of it. But if you teach someone how to turn a wrench, let's say you're a mechanic and you know how to work on let's say 80s, 90s, and early 2000s technology. You could rebuild a 1980s motor. It's the weekend. Let's just rebuild a 302. You are ahead of a lot of people because you could get an older vehicle and just if you were a plumber from a young age, an electrician, like the guy I was talking about, the relative, from the dirt to the sky, he can build a whole ass house. His dad was a lineman. And so he understands electricity like the back of his hand. That is exactly what you want to be. Trucking as well. While trucking's still a thing before, let's be honest, it's not going to be around forever. Eventually, China's going to perfect the self-driving technology, and then America's going to copy it. We'll develop it, then China will test it. Let them wreck on their roads first, then we'll have it over here. That isn't going to be around forever, but while it's still there, you're talking early game 70,000 after the first year, maybe 80. Job hop to a company after a few years, you're making 100K per year, living in the truck, less than 5K a year. Let me tell you how to live off less than 5K a year. Boy, this coffee's got some power to it. We're talking, let's see, my insurance for my van is under $25 a month. $30 a month for unlimited data on my cell phone. By the way, we've got 5G out here, real 5G in the middle of nowhere. Isn't that funny? And where my house is up in north, it's like just struggling. Come on, just a decent signal. Got to go to the front of the house. Of course, my house is like 22 inches thick and a lot of it because it's a super old house, stone and all that crap. But like $30 a month for unlimited data, $15 a month for laundry, so $25 a month for insurance, maybe $10 to $20 a month for gas. And then whatever for food. I mean, hell, don't ever feel bad about going to a food bank because it's just food that other people claim to. How many people got a tax deduction? Why shouldn't you? Because you're paying for that tax deduction. But all the same, you're like, well, what about the poor people? Most of them are getting EBT and they're fat. You should never feel bad about getting food that was otherwise going to be thrown away. But still, let's say you spend $100 on food because you actually know how to cook. You know how to be a reasonable person. What are we talking? $200 a month? Less than $200 a month? And you're making anywhere from 80 to 100K per year? Yeah, it's not going to take long if you're investing your money where your money's going to be making you every $100,000, $10,000. And you get like 300, 400, 500,000, sitting back and you've got 50,000, let's say 500,000. You got 50,000 produced in 1 year from that money, not including all the other money you made over those last number of years. Also a tax deduction for retirement investing. You do this. Also some gold, some silver, keep a little cash around. And then go out and buy a cheap house somewhere in America. You're not even 30 years old and you're able to retire. Now, I've just given you the information that allows you to basically, let's bring it back to the whole concept. You bought a house for, say, 50,000 or something like that, 30 or 50. Maybe you don't want to do any work, so you buy a house that's just in decent condition for 150,000. So you spend maybe a year and a half working, driving truck, doing a trade, doing something, living as cheap as possible, and you go and pay cash for a house. But like, say, 30,000 and you put in 50,000. 1 year of work and you got your house. How many Granite countertops for the next 30 years could you buy with what those other people paid in interest? And also include how much they had to commute to work and how many Granite countertops? Think about it, man. Going to work and back? What, $25 an hour? Most people make more than that if you're skilled. Way more than that. I mean, shit, when I'm working at a decent company as a trucker, I make right around $50 an hour. As a guy that sits on his ass doing don't hit things, stay between the lines. If someone tailgates you too long, slow down till they pass so they're not on your ass. By the way, anybody that tells you trucking's hard, no, trucking is not hard, sir. Trucking is just long. And that's why you have podcasts and other things to listen to. Jobs that are long like that, you have something to keep you entertained. You save the best entertainment, the salacious stuff, for the middle of the night when you need that extra inspiration. We'll talk about that another time. But straight up, man, straight up. You go out there and you do the hero's journey and you get your cheap piece of property. I mean, between, like, back to the whole thing with the cars, $25 an hour times 2 hours a day for commuting times 5 days a week. There's $250 you didn't get paid at a paltry $25 an hour, not including the gas, commuting back and forth, the car payment. They say the average person spends anywhere from like $3,000 or more for gas, maybe $5,000 in some cases. If you're in Western Washington, probably $5,000. One reason to get a hybrid car. I'm just going to plug it into my solar system. But you add it up, and you add it up between the car payments and all this, the time that you didn't get paid, so $12,500 for a course of the year of money you didn't get paid for commuting back and forth. And then what? Between Honey Pooh's vehicle and your vehicle, it's got to be nice. Like, she wants her BMW, whether it's used or not. I need a Beamer. And then you've got your vehicle, so $500 a piece. That, by the way, that's a good prices for overpriced vehicles. So $1,000 there. So there's another $12,000 a year. Then add in how many thousands of dollars for insurance, gas. You're talking damn near 25 to 30 grand a year just in fucking vehicles because you people are idiots. On top of 30 grand a year for your $500,000 house with the granite countertops, with the good schools, you're out 60 grand a year right there. And then you add in more, and hopefully both of you got good Oh, what about you paying back your student loans? because you're so smart. The sad part is a lot of people I've met that go to school, sometimes they get an education in something they're not even really employed in a field that actually requires that. Like, I know one guy, he's actually, it's a military career that actually really did it good for him. His psychology or philosophy degree, whatever the fuck bullshit, he went into the military. And I'm not trying to talk shit about this guy. He's a good guy. He's a good dad. He's a good, hardworking man. He goes into the military so he can get the GI Bill. And he's there, I think, for 4 or more years. Maybe it was 4 or 6 years. And then he's in college for, I think, 4 or more years. And then so you've given up 10 years of your life for a degree that you could have just learned at the public library or online, philosophy. Tell me why. You could have been a doctor, could have been a lawyer, but it turns out he got a good job because of his military careers in cybersecurity. He's also kind of the tard wrangler. You can kind of translate between, you know how some of the guys that are really good at cybersecurity are like the dudes from Ghost in the Shell, where they're not quite there. They're a little out of it. So he's like the in-between guy. Like when you have someone that's a true Cajun or someone that speaks that really deep Irish accent, like it's so deep that you need 2 other Irish people to convert. He's basically the tard wrangler. He's the translator for the tard wrangling. I mean, great guy, but 10 years to get to that. 10 years, and not to mention all the other work he did. It's like, why? Often the reason I recommend, like plumbing and electrician, you should just learn because it's just good. HVAC, electrician, all the trades are just good to know because guess what? People don't want to do that. For every 3 boomers we lose, boomers and older Gen Xers we lose in the trades because they retire or just get sick of it, we only get 1 person back. You are in demand, brothers. You are in demand, sisters. Knowing accounting, work on the beach, work out here in the wasteland, work in your house in the middle of the Midwest, work from home. And hell, if you decided that you wanted to make a little side money, when they talk about, well, we can't afford to pay Americans this much because you're debt-free in the middle of nowhere of America, so-called middle of nowhere, but a town where you could literally walk your kids to school. The little Rocky Mountain town that I have a house in, literally that, like 2-3 blocks away, there's a school. You can just walk your kids to school, or if you wanted to drive because it's cold, woo. At that point, you're just starting your vehicle up. Oh, let's keep the vehicle running. Keep the gas flowing. I'm telling you, the way we are taught to do things in this luxury BS life, granite countertops, how many granite countertops for how much you lost in interest to your credit cards per year, how many granite countertops, how much you pissed away on the equation of the car, how many granite countertops per year between all of this, including your $500,000 at 6%, so $30,000 the first year and then $29,000, a little less every year. How much would you have how many times could you have redone your granite countertops? And by the way, granite countertops are generally for pretentious morons. Because let me tell you the sad part about granite countertops. They are better. They're heavy. But the sad part is those granite countertops will outlast the fashion that you actually bought them for. Well, this color of stone is this. And then a bunch of pretentious assholes on a home improvement network. So, this is the new color and it's some gaudy ass shit. You gotta remember the 70s? God, who the hell came with that color scheme? But like you see the stone, like, oh, that's old stone. That was in style back in, 1980 something. Well, now it looks like shit. So if you go and get your granite countertops, they'll look good for about 10 years. And then they're just, oh, that color, that's old. That's why I say Formica is for real people. It's lightweight, it's damn near free and easy to deal with. Granite countertops are generally for women that want to impress other women and gay men. I never met a straight man ever that said, I can't buy this house because it doesn't have granite countertops. Maybe an investor, but I've never met a straight man ever in my life that was like that. So the moral of the story is that, yeah, for the amount of money you piss away buying that $500,000 house, having to commute to work, the cars, the clothes, the lifestyle, like 7 to 10 years, you could be retired. So retirement by 30. You could have that in America. And people are like, well, you're a guy in a van. Yeah, I am extreme minimalist. I am a ridiculous level minimalist that most people can't even comprehend. Like, I take this to a spiritual level. It's like part of me. I don't expect any of you to be like me. Okay? I know you couldn't handle what, like, the obscure and the strange, like the desert wasteland and that. This isn't meant for you. But what I'm suggesting is you could have the house, work 1 year, go to the Midwest, pay cash for a house. Maybe you've got to work another year, and then you completely do a remodel on your house. Is it better to spend 1 to 2 years to have a house that's a good house to raise your family in? Or is it good to spend 30 years and maybe lose it in divorce? Is it better to have a retirement that by 40 or 50, you're like, okay, I better start saving retirement? Or is it better to have that $300,000 to $500,000 making you 10% on whatever number that is when you're early 20s? Yeah. See, I'm not wrong. I'm just the wrong person to tell you this. You need some charismatic person. I'm not hiding behind Jesus or anything like that. You know, like Dave Ramsey, don't get me wrong. Dave Ramsey gives good advice to a certain degree, but he's really smart with that Jesus kick, and I know he probably believes, so that's whatever. But if I need to construct the face, you know, like a A-Team, for instance. I need to find a guy that's the face, and he'll sell this shit to you. I need to get women that are sexy into minimalism. By the way, good fucking luck with that. And the reason for that is until we have an absolute collapse where people are like, no shit, we're going to die, people won't start being more realistic. As long as a woman can just trade one guy for another guy, she'll get her granite countertops because there's always the next super simp ready to throw away his life for that shit. But what I say the hero's journey, because it takes a certain type of person to go out there and actually say no. It takes someone who's capable of being not a stupid animal that knows how to talk and walk like a human. The facade of a human. A lot of hairless knuckle-dragging apes. I've dealt with so many of these people. They're more animal than they are people. No, it takes someone that's truly human to deny themselves the emotional, the hormonal, and be like, no, I've got a goal. I'm persevering towards something better, the hero's journey. You don't just start out winning the game. There ain't no silver spoon for most of us. You basically have to go out there. Just like if you wanted to go to the gym and get the gains, you start out and you start working. And you learn from other people that know what they're doing and know how they're doing it. And then you learn from these people and you keep on building and building. And sooner or later, if you're doing things right and you're saving and you're investing, you will have 7 to 10 years, you'll be ready to retire. And by the way, for people that say, you know, what's your thoughts on socialism? It's maybe when we have robots doing all the work and we have the replicator, I could see that. But like, I'm being real. If I can be retired in America in 7 to 10 years, even in this weird economy we live in now, high housing prices. And by the way, I've got a way to reduce the housing prices, or at least the cost of living for those doing the hero's journey. Start building bachelor bunks. You know, like just like we have on Skyrim. You don't have a house? Oh, just join the companions. Oh, there's a place to sleep. You know, bachelor bunks. Start doing that. But what I'm suggesting, yes. Why would I need to be working for the system my whole life if I could have it figured out in 7 to 10 years? I mean, hell, I live off less than $5,000 a year out in the wasteland, out in the woods. Fuck, work 1 year, invest, make 10 grand off it a year. Why not work an extra year? Have 20 grand. You're only using 5 grand a year. The rest of it just recycles back in to be invested. And hell, if I was bored, just take up some little side job. As long as I got a nice place, a cool place to have my dog, I wouldn't care. Moral of the story is, what do you pay for those granite countertops? What do you pay for that luxury? And I've been on here for about 34 minutes, and I think I'll upload this one. Just my thoughts. Someday somebody will be like, this was my crazy uncle. Or this is that crazy guy in the van. Take it easy.